The design of playgrounds is actually a really interesting, complex challenge, which not only impacts the quality of life of children and their caregivers, but also reveals a lot about the values that underlie the design of healthy and happy cities. When you think about it, playgrounds, on the one hand, are social spaces. So it's an issue of designing a space that attracts children and their families and facilitates ongoing interaction. Beyond that, it's also facilitating movement and physical exercise. Beyond that, it's also a question of designing a place for learning, a learning environment where kids learn about risk-taking and about experimentation and adventure and collaboration and communication and failure and all of those things. Furthermore, visually, a playground is effectively public art. It's an installation in a central spot in the city that has a visual impact for better or for worse. And finally, it's also an exercise of kind of designing with nature. In a place like Malta, this is especially important to have tree cover and to have protection from the elements and from noise. As one might imagine, the way playgrounds are designed has a big impact on the quality of life of kids, on obesity levels, on critical thinking, on happiness, but also it reveals a lot about the values that underlie urban design. Gil Peñalosa, a former mayor of Bogota, said that if you design the public space in a way that is good for 8-year-olds and for 80-year-olds, then you've designed a city that's good for everyone. If one looks at the playgrounds that exist in Malta currently, a number of the issues that stand out are, first of all, location, where the playgrounds are located and where they're missing. Another very big issue is accessibility, which is linked to the location. Many playgrounds are either located quite a distance from housing areas, so the parents have to physically drive their kids there, or there is a road that separates the playground from pedestrian areas that is a barrier for kids to access the playground. Another issue that has been pointed out by local parents is the issue of diversity, designing to make the spaces interesting for users of different ages. A lot of playgrounds tend to be focusing just on young children and ignoring the needs of teenagers or older people. Another thing that often gets pointed out is nature. A lot of playgrounds don't have enough tree cover, so in summer it can get blazingly hot. And then there's also the question of maintenance. Now, where we are now, this is the family park in Marsescala, which is one of the best playgrounds in terms of its size and its access to nature and its facilities, but it's located on the site of a former garbage dump. So it's a bit removed from housing areas. Looking forward at the possibilities of innovation and improvement for playgrounds in Malta, I think a lot could be gained by re-engaging with what a playground is. It's a place for socializing. It's a place for physical exercise and movement, for being in nature. It's a place for public art, and it's a learning environment as well. And it's a place for culture. So when we start to look at it in these broader terms, we can naturally engage with the relevant partners that can help enrich the meaningfulness of places for play. And at the core of that, it involves engaging with children and with their parents and with other stakeholders that can make places for play more effective. One of the great things about playgrounds as an area of design is that one can test them out pretty easily. Kids are very spontaneous in how they engage with things, and some of these places for play can be developed in an iterative fashion. There's an anecdote In terms of public art, when Valletta was the European Capital of Culture in 2018, a series of plaster sculptures were erected around the city. And in a matter of days, many of them became broken, arms or legs or snapped off. This was initially interpreted as a question of vandalism, but I think it reveals that people crave the ability to interact with public art and to kind of connect with their environment. So that's an area that can be explored further as well, how public art and playgrounds can work together. So generally speaking, looking at the different dimensions of playgrounds, connecting with different stakeholders, diverse stakeholders, and putting children and people at the core. That can lead to a great improvement in quality of life in Malta through the improvement of local playgrounds.